Welcome to Synthaholics. This is your host, David Duncan, and with me is...
Brian, what up, Davey?
Hey, Brian. We're on different sides. I gotta point this way to point to you instead of this way. That's weird.
What are you talking about?
I'm having... on my screen, you're on the opposite side from...
Oh, we're changing it up this
week.
week.
We switched sides, yeah.
The software changed it up for you.
Thank you, technical difficulties.
When are those gonna stop? So, housekeeping items is David's having a lot of problems with computers.
Yeah.
Every week there's an issue. Every other week there's an issue.
But we still managed to push through. And whenever we have this background and not an actual background of the actual movie we're discussing, I've had a technical difficulty that I wasn't able to solve in time.
That's an Easter egg.
And that's only for people who see us live on Twitch or on YouTube. So, to the listeners, I am sorry. You don't know what I'm talking about.
I do. It's okay.
Unless you watch us live.
We just filled them in. They know what's going on now.
Yeah, it's
imagine that like normally our backgrounds are what we're talking about, and just David's is never.
It's becoming less and less so. Might need to build a new computer one day. We've got some news. I didn't completely blank on news before we started today. So
guide us. You are the guiding light here, David. I'll let you take the reins for the news segment.
Well, we've got Dune 2 trailer dropped in between the podcasts, which I know Brian is extremely excited for.
Why are you acting like you don't want to see it either? What are you talking about? You're also very excited for the Dune movie.
Yes, I'm very excited for the Dune movie.
It's probably I'm gonna go out on a hot take here. I'm gonna say it's probably our most anticipated movie this year.
You're not wrong. I think
exactly.
But I think it's what only anticipated movie of the year too. So what? I don't know.
You don't want to see Oppenheimer with Chris Nolan?
Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, I forgot about Oppenheimer. Yes, I do want to see that. So, 2 anticipated movies for the year at least.
And the Transformers one.
No,
you're into Transformers, man. Optimus Prime, he's your guy.
Is he related to Amazon Prime?
Yeah, they work together. They need to do a collab.
They work a collab, yeah.
They need to do a collab where the shipper is Optimus Prime.
I have your Autobots roll out. We have got to deliver packages.
They switch all their cars to Autobots.
They just all the Autobots now, instead of the Autobot logo, it's the Amazon Prime logo.
Oh my god! Somebody should make AI out
and then the Decepticons all have FedEx and UPS logos on them now. It's we are the imposters.
They're all bad. So, there's a couple things we gotta cover here because we started talking about stuff before we even started talking about stuff.
But what did you think of the Dune trailer though?
That's where I was going back. I was going back to the Dune trailer.
Coming back, okay.
Yeah, Dune trailer was cool. I thought it was a great trailer because it showed a lot, but it also didn't show anything.
It showed an awful lot. We got a lot of Princess Irulan talking. I think if you don't count her monologue from the beginning of the 1984 Dune, I think she's got more dialogue in this trailer than she did in the original movie.
Yeah.
We also see a scene that wasn't filmed, and I don't think either movie. It definitely wasn't the 1984 Dune, and I don't remember it being in the sci-fi version, but I also blocked a lot of the sci-fi version out of my head. It's Feyd-Rautha fighting in a pit on the Harkonnen planet.
Yes.
That's a scene from the book, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then they also go and they jump all the way to the end of the book and show a knife fight between Paul and Feyd-Rautha.
That's right at the end.
That's right at the end. I'm like,
I don't think we're gonna get a part 3 for the first Dune book. If they do more Dune movies, I think they're gonna go to the second book. That's my guess.
Yeah, the third one's is definitely gonna. They might even start leading into Children of Dune in this because they're.
Well, we don't know if they're. We don't know if they're doing a third Dune movie.
I think Denis wants to. It just depends.
He's doing something else after this, though. He's not doing. He's already doing. I can't remember what it is, but he's not doing another Dune movie right after this.
Probably not, because other Dune movies depended on how much this Dune movie does. So he's lined up work, and he'll do something, and then if this Dune movie does really well, hopefully he'll come back and do Children of Dune and whatever. Because
how much do you know about Dune, the other Dune stuff? Because there's a lot of Dune. I only know the first book.
It gets crazy. They're Duke Leto II becomes the God Emperor of Dune, becomes like half sandworm. Duncan Idaho comes back over and over and over again, which is why I thought it was a really cool idea to cast Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, because he's a big actor and he's like basically the only character that's like pretty much in most of the Dune books. So he could be like
Yeah.
your
Well,
one
he's not
thread.
gonna be. He shouldn't be in this one. I don't
No,
think.
I mean, it depends on how
Unless they.
far in the Children
Yeah,
of Dune they go,
that's
because
true.
he comes back as like some kind of clone. They keep cloning Duncan Idaho. It's pretty great.
Bring him back.
So I mean, like
Wow, that's a huge spoiler for people with like no warning. That's
well, I mean,
that potentially just ruined the future of Dune for somebody.
the books have been out for a hot second. So I mean, like,
They have been out for like 50, 60 years. That
they've been
is
out.
true.
They've been out for a while, and Kevin J. Anderson and Frank Herbert's son are continuing to do Dune. So I mean, like, it's not like news or anything if you follow Dune or know about
We
Dune.
still haven't seen Christopher Walken though.
No, yeah,
They still haven't shown the Emperor
I can't wait
or
to
the
see.
Navigator.
I
They haven't
can't.
shown the Navigators either.
They haven't shown those, but they should. But you know, if they are ending, if they are ending at the end of the first book, they did show a scene like right out of the end, like for sure at the fight between Paul and Phaedra, unless they do start continuing the story into Children of Dune a bit.
Yeah,
Which they might, because Children of Dune is sort of a little bit more through Chani's eyes a little bit, because like Paul gets less and less human pretty quick.
Do you think? Do you think if they do? I wonder how many people watched the first Dune movie because people like what's the actor's name that plays Paul? Whatever his name is.
Timothy Charlotte.
Yeah, what his name? People like him as like an actor and stuff. I wonder if people are gonna continue because he's not Paul is not really the greatest guy. He kind of
Oh,
like falls out of favor a little bit.
oh, he's it's a cautionary tale of like power corrupting, and like it's like
Yeah.
people think it's like a white savior movie. Like anyone who thinks Dune is about a white savior is like
Yeah, anybody who thinks like
doesn't.
Paul is gonna like come save the day and everything, Paul becomes like a problem.
Paul is like the leader of genocide. He's not like a good person, and then like his following still commits genocide in his name like years later. Like it's.
Yeah, he's definitely not a good guy.
But I remember seeing all these like Dune is the white savior problem, and I'm like, you do not understand at
Clearly, they
all.
only watch half the movie. They only read half the book, half the movie.
They haven't read any of it, because I mean, even in the book, like it's like Frank Herbert, like I don't know why, like I mean, like I know we've mentioned spoilers and stuff like that, but Frank Herbert, like he put spoilers in his book like super early, like at the very beginning of the book, like Leto Atreides is like, yeah, we get killed, and like he dies, like it's like self-fulfilling prophecy almost. Like what's gonna happen like pretty early in the book,
Well,
like.
there's quite a few things that happen in the book that that we just know about that he tells us. Like what? There's one thing I can't think of. There's one thing that's like a pretty big deal that they haven't shown in the movie yet, but they like it's like in the first like
The
20.
big deal, it's like before the halfway point. So
Yeah, it's like 20 pages into the
the
books.
movie, no, it's not. It's like it's as
Maybe
soon
not
as
that,
Paul
but
and his mother get lost in the desert, he figures out that the Baron Harkonnen is his grandfather,
oh yeah, that's it.
and like
It's not a
they.
secret in the book. It's not like a secret.
Oh, that
In
comes up.
in the movie,
It's a secret. It's a secret until Leto dies, and then
well,
like
I mean,
it comes out. But that's still
this
like.
movie is posing it as like that's going to be the big reveal.
Well, I wish, like I said this when we talked about Dune originally. I wish that was the cliffhanger, because like they could have left that as a really cool cliffhanger instead of like the weird fight in the it wasn't even in the siege like it was in the book, but whatever. Like they had the fight as the ending part, and I'm like, oh man, that would have been great cliffhanger for like revealing, especially for people who don't know Dune, revealing
Yeah.
that Baron Harkonnen is also Paul's grandfather. It's kind of like the Luke, I am your father moment. Like that would have been a good for for Dune to have
Yeah.
that. But I mean, it was ending was fine. It just wasn't like cliffhanger y.
Do you like I don't think I've actually asked you this before. Do you like the book or do you like the movie better? I have an answer.
Both have their merits. Like I wish there was more parts from the book that made it into the movie, especially
Like the
since
Duncan Idaho drunk scene.
the drunk scene was cool. Like the dinner, the dinner where they thought there was gonna be an assassination attempt could have been cool. They cut out most of Shadow Mapes. I really wish they wouldn't have cut out Shadow Mapes because Stilgar knows her and Stilgar talks about her later in the book, and like she was like in the movie for like a second.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit disappointing because she's kind of an important character. I mean, not like the most important, but more important than they gave her credit for in the Denis Villeneuve film.
Sure. Sure.
But the movie does a really good job of like explaining the world of Dune and like not, but also not like just dumping an hour of exposition on you. They kind of explain it slowly by adding new scenes, and I think that's how you adapt it for an broader audience. I think they did a really good job. They added a lot of
But
scenes,
you have to.
but those scenes made the movie better. Wheel of Time, they added scenes and it made it worse.
Oh man, we're still in this Wheel of Time thing, huh?
Oh man, it burns anew with the writer strike. Speaking of the writer strike, man,
The writers.
I know Brian's isn't big knowledgeable on it, but it just makes me
Well, we were
upset.
talking a little bit about it before the podcast briefly because I didn't really understand what was going on. Because it seems like my understanding is that, say, there's 100 companies, 100 companies each have their own writers, and each of these writers are part of this writing like
It's a writers guild.
thing. Yeah. Now, in my mind, it's like each company's going to pay a little bit differently. So are all writers on board with this? Because what if you're like a writer and you're making enough? Are you still going to protest? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know how this
if you're
works.
part of the guild, it's your union responsibility to protest. Also, the
Okay.
Writers Guild, from what I understand, the Writers Guild dictates kind of like what people are paid, like the minimums and maximums and whatnot. And so, like, it's always like when you're dealing with unions, it's always like when they go on strike, it's a negotiation tactic. We're not going to do work until you meet our demands for X, Y, and Z.
Well, I would like to like if it's oh man, people this would be a hot take for writers. But like for every I would like to look into each one of these companies and see what they work on and what they're responsible for. If there's like some company that's works for like, the Rings of Power show and they're like, we deserve more money. It's like, do you? But then if there's like people that work on like, I'm sticking with Amazon, like Invincible. We've talked about Invincible. That's good. They do deserve more money. So like where's like is it like we all just get more money? Because for every
Yes,
good piece of content, there's three bad ones.
regardless of quality, it's gonna give everyone a pay raise, and it's just like there's been so much terrible TV and movie, and I don't know 100% for sure if the Screenwriters Guild encompasses both television and film. I'm guessing it does. I'm not 100% sure on it, but
We're gonna get killed in the comments for this.
oh yeah, all the whole one comment we get.
Always gonna kill us.
Hopefully. Anyway, yeah, the writer's strike is annoying. People, I feel like it affects TV mostly, more directly because films are a lot longer burn as far as their making and release. Like the funny thing is like the first shows to be affected are all like late night shows, like Jimmy Fallon and Stephen Colbert and all these
Nobody
people.
like what? Does anybody watch that stuff
I
anymore?
don't know. And like these guys are supposed to be comedians. Why aren't they doing their own writing? They need a team of writers to do their
Well, yeah,
30
no,
minute
they
spiel.
definitely would need a team. It's one guy, and they have to make a nightly program every single day on their own. I mean, they definitely need writers for skits, for interviewing, for their monologue. They definitely need writers. They can be comedians all they want, but like they're only one person. They have
Yeah,
other stuff to
but
take care of as
maybe don't
well.
make it. I mean, maybe if they're just them, maybe make it once a week. I don't know. But the whole show is shutting down because the writers can't aren't doing it. And like you said, who watches these? I haven't watched.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
The last time I
I mean,
watched
I guess you'll catch a clip every once in a while on like YouTube or
YouTube,
something. But
yeah.
even I don't even watch them there. I like every once in a while I'll see it, but I'm like, oh, okay, Chris Evans was on Jimmy Fallon. It's
The
like, oh, okay,
last
cool, whatever.
time I watched Stephen Colbert, he was on the Colbert Report, not the Late Show, and this was like back when I had a cable box.
But that one was on
It's
Comedy Central, right? That was
yeah,
Comedy Central.
it's been a long time. Yeah, I think it was. I haven't had regular TV in a long time.
Yeah,
I've streamed everything for the past like almost a decade. It feels like.
somewhere around there.
Um, but yeah, I'm not crazy about the writer strike. People are going nuts over it. Some writers are like, I've heard of some people like terrorizing movie sets because they've got written scripts, so they can just shoot what's written. But some people are like terrorizing movie sets and like shutting down, like trying to interrupt stuff that's already written to be made, which is like super unprofessional, super not cool. Um, I think people should be paid fairly, but I feel like writers aren't paid as badly as they say they are, and they're writing just garbage.
We don't know what they're getting. We don't know what they're getting paid.
Well, okay, the thing is, the way TV worked back during the last writer strike is like, even back during the last writer strike 10, 15 years ago, TV episodes were getting shorter and shorter, and they've continued to get fewer and fewer episodes a season since the previous writer strike. And people are complaining, like, remember the last writer strike? Remember Heroes season 2 and Terminator Sarah Chronicles season 2 and all these other shows that like bombed miserably like during the writer's strike? And I'm like, well, what about Rings of Power? What about Wheel of Time? What about Star Trek Discovery? Seasons 1 through 4? What about the entire Phase 4? What about every single live action Disney remake? None of these are happening during a writer's strike, and these have been some of the worst movies and TV shows.
Do you think they're like it's more than just the writers for that as well. It's also producers and directors and all that too. But do you think they like when they're writing this stuff and filming this stuff and directing all that? Do you really think like these people are like this is going to be good? I feel like there's no way.
I have no idea.
Like if you know the content, like I feel like like you can read something and be like this isn't good. Like I don't need to film this to know it's not going to be good.
Yeah, it blows my mind that like so this like it feels like they're shooting rough drafts, like scribbles on a napkin. It doesn't feel like a fully formed thing, especially with Rings of Power and Wheel of Time and Star Trek and Star Wars and Marvel. It's all been so bad lately, and people are yelling at me like that's my opinion. And I'm like, no, this is like pretty much fundamental fact. Have you looked at reviews like across the board? Like none of these have been like super well received by the audience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope that whatever these people are demanding, I don't know what they are, but I hope they get what they want, and hopefully they can make or help make good stuff.
I mean,
Hopefully maybe they're just writing bad stuff because they're like we're not getting enough money or something. I don't know how much they're getting paid. I don't know anything. So I hope their demands are met because everybody, I'm sure it's the big corporate executives.
well, part of their demands is to exclude AI writing, and I don't think that's going to happen. I hope they get.
That's their demand is don't use AI.
Oh yeah, they're completely against AI.
I mean, I'm against AI too, but like I feel like it's inevitable.
It's an inevitable thing at this point. Yeah, I'm thinking so too.
That's going to be a difficult one to navigate.
I don't know, and like I think they want like a minimum of number of writers per project, but the problem is right now is that streaming services blew up, and thus the demand for writers blew up. But now all the streaming services are like jumping ship and like talking about withholding content or talking about, putting some of their exclusive content on a different streaming service so they can try to make some of their money back. Like streaming didn't blow up well because I mean when there was just Netflix and Hulu, they were kind of the kings because I mean like there's not a whole lot. But when every single channel is its own streaming service, it just dilutes it and there's less people wanting to go certain places, and then it seems like it's a failing strategy, and this failing strategy is like also hurting the writers because there was a swell where they needed more content and more writers, but now that the bubble is burst on all these streaming platforms, they're trying to figure out how to make money.
Yeah.
They're cutting shows, which means now there's too many writers for too few shows.
Well, I have the two hopes I have is I hope the writers get what they want, and in return, I hope us the consumers get better stuff, and I hope the executives get less money.
My fear is that their demands are going to get met, and then we're still going to get the same avalanche of crap we've been getting since 2016.
We don't that remains to be seen. I don't know what their demands are, but if that AI one is like I would prefer no AI, but like I feel like there's just no way. There's a lot of people, at least for me, the past like week or so, I've had the like light bulb went on. It's like, oh my god, this AI thing, we're in trouble. So I don't know if that's happened with a lot of people yet, but like, there's just no way AI is not going to like be a huge problem in the next like 10 years for jobs.
It's been movies. It's been in movies for forever. So I don't understand why like people are just now getting scared of AI. Like movies have been talking about it for forever.
Yeah, but those are like movies.
Yeah, but like
They're movies. They're always this. You know, there's some imagination
Science
going on.
fiction all usually, not always, but sometimes predicts the future.
Well, sure. I mean, there's a million predictions going on all the time, but like once you realize that like you can give an AI a prompt and it'll just write a book for you within like 10 seconds, you're like, "Ooh, okay, we might be in a little trouble here."
Well, that's the thing. It's like I don't think, I just don't understand why people like didn't see this coming. Because I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a big sci-fi geek, but like AI seemed inevitable. Like that's
Yeah.
literally what Dune's about. Because AI takes over during going back to Dune again. AI takes over, and then they basically have a war against the machines, like Terminator in the future. They just like stop all computers, and then they use drugs to make people live in computers, so that there's no actual like hardware computers anymore. It's like bonkers.
Pretty much. Pretty
So I
much.
mean,
Everybody
like,
does a little different.
it's
So,
it's nuts.
you know, moving on a little bit after that, let's talk about a little bit of video games because I like video games and you like video games. Let's start with a bad one first, and then we'll move into our nostalgia thing that we're talking about earlier. Redfall, David. Redfall is supposed to be the first, big AAA game from Microsoft that, was they're like full under control and ever. And it didn't go over so hot. Didn't do so good.
Redfall. It's like I think it's in the bottom 14 on Steam.
It's
The
sad to see.
game
What
is,
was it? I would love this game was in development. We talked about this a little bit, but the game was in development for 5 years.
and it was supposed to come out a
What
year
were they?
ago.
What were they doing?
I don't
Oh
know.
man, the game is super rough. It's like an empty map with the everything. The gameplay design was weird. The UI design is weird. The menus, the skills, it's all designed weird. It's like
Lack
there's a stealth guy, but like the perks and stuff that you like unlock later in the game remove your stealth. So then it's like your stealth character is not can't even be stealth anymore. Oh my
Man,
gosh.
Redfall just looks like a giant mess, and the thing is, like, I always thought personally Arcane was overrated. I'm not a big fan of stealth games, and Dishonored like was super
Yeah.
stealthy. I thought Prey would have been more fun. Like when you have to like start using the dissolve everything ammo that just turns everything into uh like turns random things into junk so you can recycle it and turn it, like when you stack up 16 chairs in a room and every other metal thing you can find and throw one of those dissolving grenades on it, you only get like 2 scraps of metal, which isn't enough for like one bullet. It's just like, it's just frustrating. Like it's just absolutely frustrating. Like they did not give you enough materials to make more bullets in that game, which drove me absolutely insane. So
The views of David do not
pray.
represent the views of Brian.
Did you have fun?
I don't like every Arcane game.
Was it fun to stack up 100 chairs and try to get a couple pieces of metal from it?
I really liked Prey, man. I thought Prey was a great game. I really did. I haven't played Deathloop, so I don't know much about that.
I didn't
And
want to
I
play
played
Deathloop.
Dishonored. I thought Dishonored, they were like I'm cool with them. I'd be cool with another one. I liked it.
Dishonored was not terrible. It was fine. Prey could have been great if
Was.
there was more resources. Like, Prey didn't even feel like a survival horror game. Like, survival horror games are more fair than Prey.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, if Redfall didn't work out, I don't know what the heck they're gonna do. It puts a big question mark over Starfield, but I feel like Starfield is like I don't know. I don't even know what Microsoft's goal is anymore because Phil Spencer got on that podcast and he's just like, "Yeah, we suck." That's pretty much what he says. So I don't know what what their goal is anymore. But hopefully, Todd, there's a lot on Todd Howard's shoulders right now to make that game good. I still really want to see what Starfield was when it was supposed to originally release,
A
like
year
almost a
ago.
year ago now.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. Like, I don't know why, but it feels like everything Microsoft touches just absolutely goes to rubbish. Because Skype was amazing. The day Microsoft bought it, it somehow just turned into a train wreck.
They were like, "All right, day one, guys, we bought Skype. Let's make everybody's IP visible. So you can just like steal anybody's information."
I just don't understand. Like, every time Microsoft buys a company, the company they bought like just tanks as far as like the quality of their stuff goes.
Well,
Like,
that's not
because
always true. GitHub is pretty good still.
Okay, I mean it's not a 100% thing that Microsoft buys
They
you
don't have a
and you turn
100% success rate at ruining it.
and ruining it, but it seems pretty high. Like people, Fallout New Vegas is probably one of Obsidian's like best games, and like they haven't put out like Outer Worlds was like it was mostly developed before Microsoft bought them, but Outer Worlds like wasn't as well received as like some of their other games. Grounded was okay. It's pretty good,
Grounded's pretty good.
but
Grounded's pretty solid.
it's not like 100%. Like it's not very intuitive. Where like most of your damage comes from throwing your weapons at them instead of actually using your weapons the way God intended. Uh, so like they've made some questionable decisions. They bought Bethesda, and Redfall is like absolute garbage. We don't know what id's working on. Do we know what id's? I don't think we know.
They're working on Doom.
Well, they put out Mighty Doom, but I don't think id did that. I think it was another company that made Mighty Doom.
Well, what the rumor is that they're helping Starfield.
Yes, it is helping with Starfield, but we don't know like how much of that was just the
Yeah, we don't know.
leftover help from Fallout 4, because it did step in and help the shooting in Fallout 4 as well. So we don't know if they stepped in even more with Starfield or whatnot. But if they worked on and helped to get the shooting even better in Starfield, that'd be fantastic. Because I mean, if you own id, your shooting should be pretty good. I would hope in all your games, and just let some of that id magic rub off on you.
Work its magic. Do you think Starfield will launch and it will technically be a good game? Do you think it's gonna like you're gonna be able to consistently hit 60? Do you
Oh
think that's a thing?
no, no. You can't hit 60 reliably in Fallout 4 when you go downtown.
Hey man, that's what they're saying. The goal is 60. Goal 60, man.
I mean, I'll believe it when I see it.
With mods in 4 years. Install
Yeah.
the mods
Although
and
mods usually bring performance down because they're like stressing the
yeah, but
engine
there's like
more.
mods to make,
Oh
things
yeah,
run better.
yeah. There are some mods that they do fix performance. Like, I think
They
if
just hired these modders.
I think if Starfield comes out and it's like a 7, I think that'll be good enough. Because Fallout 4,
You're cool with a 7?
oh,
Microsoft needs a win here, man.
oh, oh,
7 is not a win.
okay. I granted they do need a win, and that's the thing. Like Fallout 4, I enjoyed Fallout 4. I played it a lot, but I like rating it on its own merits without any mods, just on its own, with the bugs in it, with the poor performance, with the lackluster story. It is like, to my mind, it is a 7. But because it's a Bethesda game and there's mods and there's like performance patches and graphics patches and like anime bouncing boob patches and whatever else. There's a bajillion mods for this thing.
Sure.
The Far Harbor DLC was like an 8 or a 9. The Far Harbor DLC was the best Bethesda made chunk of this game. I thought the community system was pretty good. I didn't really like how like there wasn't much choice in the main story. The game had some issues. Like on its own, the game to me is only like a 7. Like vanilla Fallout 4, no DLC. Like it's like a 7 tops. Like it's not terrible.
Alright.
It's not amazing. It's a kind of pretty good. It's a good skeleton to build stuff off on, and that's what modders do. And that's why I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into Fallout 4, because it is a great platform for mods.
And so will Starfield, hopefully.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Like, if Starfield is at least as good as Fallout 4, it'll be fine enough for me to sink hundreds of hours into it. I hope it's better than Fallout 4. I sincerely do. I really want this to be better than Fallout 4.
Howard's not gonna let you down.
But
He's not letting you down, man.
But after Fallout 76 and after Redfall, I don't have specifically high hopes that it's going to be like a 9 or 10 game.
No.
I'm just being realistic here. That's just my realistic expectations. Is if the game's a 7, it'll probably be fine enough because it'll be on par with Fallout 4. If it's better than Fallout 4, good job, Bethesda. You did it good. But
at least it's on PC, which is more than we could ask if we were like PlayStation gamers. We wouldn't even be able to play it. So
considering
at least it's on PC.
Considering I bought Fallout 4 day one on PS4 and PC.
At least You know, one good thing that Microsoft's doing is they're starting to put stuff on PC. Well, I guess Sony's doing that as well. Nintendo needs to start putting stuff on
Microsoft's
PC.
been putting stuff on PC.
Yeah.
It's Sony that's just kind of starting. Although Sony also their track record's not very good. Their only game that came to PC with zero problems was God of War. Horizon had
Did
Horizon.
Horizon have problems when it came
It
out?
had performance issues at start.
It was pretty solid now though.
Yeah, it's solid now.
God
Most
of War was really the only one that came out that was just like immediately just 10
Yeah,
out of 10.
yeah, God of War came out perfect. There was basically zero issues with God of War. My only personal issue with God of War is that the PlayStation controller wouldn't work wirelessly and show the correct buttons. It switched to Xbox buttons. I'm like, this is a PlayStation game.
That's a
It should
you
be
problem.
default Xbox
That
buttons.
is a you problem.
Well, when I plugged my controller in with a wire, it showed the PlayStation buttons just fine, but wirelessly it wouldn't, and I don't know why that was. Because Horizon Zero Dawn showed PlayStation buttons
I mean, there's definitely got to be
wirelessly.
a way to fix that. There's definitely got to be
There's probably a
something done.
mod, but Horizon Zero Dawn worked out of the box wirelessly with PlayStation buttons. Why
I
couldn't
couldn't tell you.
Why couldn't God of War do that?
I didn't play either one of them.
8 out of 10. God of War 8 out of 10. Your PlayStation buttons didn't work.
8 out of 10.
You lose 2 points for not being as good as Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh my god. We have controller points now.
Controller points, yeah.
Oh man. So, you know, I guess on to the leading into this nostalgia. Where do you want to start? You want to go with
Well,
what we're supposed to be talking about, or do you want to end with the other game?
we gotta do with Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is getting 10s across the board, and
Yes.
I think that is a nostalgia view on Zelda. And I
I don't know.
think
How can you just be against like every critic?
because critics have rose tinted
Like even users. Everybody's like, this game's just 10.
critics and users have rose tinted glasses when it comes to Zelda.
So what about the 14-year-old who's only played Breath of the Wild and they're getting to this game? What are they nostalgic for when
Breath,
they give it a 10?
Breath of the Wild.
What? It's just it's the second game.
Well, Nintendo just has that reputation. Look, because I mean, like if you look back at Skyward Sword also got rave reviews. Like they're like, "Oh, it's the best Zelda ever at this point in time," and it's just like that. And I played it, and I thought Skyward Sword was probably one of the worst Zelda games I've ever played. I did not have fun playing that. The forced motion controls also like took 2 or 3 or 4 points away off that game because it required the Wii Motion Plus, which claimed it had one-to-one movement, and I would do this, and my character would do the complete opposite way more times than I care to remember, and way too often since so many of the puzzles required specific hand motions, and I would do them, and it would say I did the opposite. I'm like, what the hell?
Again, my views do not represent David's views on this topic.
I Breath of the Wild was definitely a solid game. It was probably the best Zelda since Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is still my top Zelda game of all time. Nothing comes close to Ocarina of Time. Breath of the Wild is a close second, but it's still. I mean, the weapon breaking like knocks it down a couple points. Like that drove me
So
absolutely
if
insane.
it took away the weapon breaking, well, what is Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild would probably be still slightly under Ocarina of Time.
Without weapon breaking.
Like the Ocarina, the problem with Tears of the Kingdom and also Breath of the Wild, I think, was like the dungeons. We didn't have the massive cool dungeons like we had in previous Zelda's games. Shrines, yeah, there's a bajillion shrines, but all like 2 rooms, and I'm like, oh, okay, another 2-room shrine. It felt more grindy when there's a bajillion 2-room shrines.
Sure.
And I mean,
well, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Okay. I mean, like I give probably Ocarina of Time 10 out of 10. Probably Breath of the Wild 8 out of 10.
No, that's still good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's undoubtedly a good game, but I think the 10s across the board are rose-colored glasses that are just like, it's just the Nintendo nostalgia, Nintendo power, and all that. And like we talked about yesterday, we went to a lovely hike at a gorge with my wife, since it was her birthday today, but we celebrated yesterday. Happy birthday.
Oh
again.
yes, yes,
Yes,
thank you,
and
thank you.
so we spoke yesterday, and I told you I'm not gonna buy this game until the next Nintendo system when we can guarantee like 60 frames per second, because it's Nintendo, right?
You think it's gonna get? You think the next Nintendo system's gonna give you 60?
I mean, for a game that was built on the previous hardware, why not?
All right.
If it's not 60 on the new hardware, like what is Nintendo even doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we've been asking Nintendo since Nintendo's existed.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, if like, because in my mind, since we all know Nintendo will always resell their old games ad nauseum till the end of time, like that, like, and because this is like a game that's probably coming out toward the end of the Switch's lifetime, they liked usually bridging Zelda games like over across each system,
Yeah.
because they did that with the one with the
Breath of the Wild.
wolf.
They did with Breath of the
They
Wild.
did it with the Breath of the Wild. They did it with Twilight Princess as well,
Yeah.
or it relaunched on like two systems. So
Well, the
I
difference was we knew about the next system though. Like when
yeah,
Breath of the Wild came out, we knew it was coming out on Wii U and Switch. This one,
we
we
don't
just know it's
know.
coming out on Switch, but like you said, it's coming out on the next one.
But because it's Nintendo, I can totally see them doing like a dual pack where they remastered Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and like resell them together or something like that, like as a bundle.
Probably.
I can
Yeah.
see them totally doing that. Um,
Yeah, and then
as
Nintendo
a
is coming out and saying like, "Yeah, we're not worried about we're not working on a next hardware or anything. We're not thinking about it right now." It's like there's no way you're not thinking about another hardware system. They're just saying that so you don't stop buying the Switch. There's just no way.
Nintendo also said we weren't going to replace the 3DS with the Switch, and it's completely what
Yeah,
they
and then
did.
it immediate then like as soon as like the sales start going on 3DS, they're just like, "Switch, we're all in."
Yeah, like it's they're just thinly
They don't
veiled
want it, well, but it
lies.
makes sense from a business standpoint. They don't want to just because if they just like today announced that like the next hardware thing is coming out in like 6 months, they'll literally just kill the Switch sales. Nobody's gonna buy a Switch.
Yeah, but I mean, like the Switch sales need to die because the hardware is just it was subpar the day it launched. To be
Yeah.
honest, to be completely
No,
honest.
it's probably I don't know if this is exactly well. No, you know what? I'm gonna pretty confidently say that every new flagship phone that comes out is probably double the power of the Switch.
Well,
Probably something like
anything
that.
that's running Apple Silicon is probably definitely double the power of the Switch.
Well, any flagship. I mean, the Switch really isn't
Yeah,
very powerful at all.
it's not. It's pretty
So
sad.
yeah.
But speaking of nostalgia, today we're talking about a movie that
It
is
took us a long
it's
time to get here.
it's a nostalgic. We had a lot of news this week, and it was news that I wasn't blanking on. I kind of knew about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes a lot of stuff happens in 2 weeks that we're excited about and talking about. And this movie is not a particularly deep movie anyway. This movie is a love story between a man and his big rig truck that gets stolen.
I thought
So
you were gonna say it's a love between you and the movie.
no. This movie, Big Trouble in Little China, is a love story about a man and his truck.
Yeah, yeah, sure, that works.
That works.
That
All
works.
right. So um
Dave, why don't you start off with?
I
You
yeah.
know what? You start off with your ratings, and then you're gonna have to kind of like explain what's going on in this movie. 'Cause we we decided to watch this, but and you've already known about this movie. I haven't watched it before. I rewatched like certain like I remember I texted you saying like, "Hey, I'm just about to start watching it," and it took me like this movie's an hour and 40 minutes. It took me like 2.5 hours to finish this movie because I had to keep like rewatching parts because I was like, I don't understand what's going on,
It's like the
and I
bonus.
still feel that.
It's like the bonus of watching this as a child, because as a child, my dad recorded this off of TV, and I watched this movie ad nauseum, like children do. You find something you like and you watch it over and over and over
Yeah,
and
you just keep
over and
going. You don't
over and
get tired
over
of it.
again. Yeah, and it's still like I've watched this movie, like I watched it with my wife 2 years ago. She hated it. I rewatched it again this week for the podcast. I enjoyed it again. This movie's a solid like 8.5.
This is an 8.
I really enjoy this movie. Nostalgia does things to reviews, Brian. I promise you it does. I'm not going to give it a 10 like
I
Tears of
shouldn't
the
do
Kingdom.
this.
I'm
I
not.
shouldn't do this to you. It shouldn't be doing this to you.
It's not like Tears of the Kingdom. It's not like Breath of the Wild. Like Breath of the
You
Wild.
think you rated
Nostalgia.
Breath of the Wild the same rating as you're rating this movie?
Yes.
What?
Absolutely.
Oh God. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
I
We're gonna need a court case here to figure out like why this is valid.
nostalgia. Like if I watch this movie nowadays, I would probably give it like a 6 or a 5. But nostalgia does things to your brain where you love it. And like I don't even ironically love this movie. I actually love this movie. I enjoy this movie every single time I watch it. It is to me it is a fun action adventure movie from the 80s. It's almost like rewatching it now, like with my D&D knowledge and everything, it's almost kind of like a modern D&D adventure. You got a beholder in it, you got weird creatures, you got magic. You've got all this weird stuff, and you've got out of, it's weird
Glowing
stuff.
review.
Yeah, I love this film. It is a lot of fun. And there's a lot of nerd cred in this. We got Kurt Russell, who's Ego in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. We've got Kim Cattrall, who's the Vulcan character, who's Traitor in Star Trek 6. We've got David Lopan, who is, of course, the jeweler from Diablo 3. We've got lots of nerd cred in this movie. We've got one of the Storms, who obviously inspired Raiden in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it does. I'll get behind you on that
without a doubt, it inspired Raiden. Like if it didn't, it's just, I mean, like it's
it definitely did. It definitely did.
I mean, he's got the straw hat. Like he's got the power. Yeah, it's literally Raiden. Like this movie has got so much nerd cred going for it. Like I didn't know this back in the day, and now I just see all this stuff that I can see these connections. And I'm like, this is great. We've got a Diablo character, we've got a Star Trek character, we got a Guardians of the Galaxy character. I love me some sci-fi.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian. Hurt my feelings.
I'm gonna give this movie like a 4.
That's fine.
I think anybody who did not grow up on this movie, like you have, would agree with me. I don't understand where these ratings are coming from. I could think there's some nostalgia thing going on here with these ratings. That's what I'm
saying. Scores than it deserves because of nostalgia. And I am wholeheartedly admitting that this movie probably isn't an 8. But the nostalgia is clouding.
It is to me.
Nostalgia is clouding my vision. And I'm not particularly a big fan of John Carpenter. I haven't seen many of John Carpenter's films. I think I've seen part of The Thing. I wasn't crazy about it. I watched all of The Fog, and I think The Fog is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And I watched The Fog as an adult. So, I mean, like, it's one of those things where I completely understand. And when I reviewed Ice Pirates here on this podcast, Aaron and Holly, they grew up with Ice Pirates. They adored it, and I hated it. I didn't grow up with it. I think nostalgia does something to you. And I wish I had grown up with Space Pirates so I could empathize and, like, be in their shoes.
I want to love trash. I want to love the trash.
No, I understand that it's nostalgia. Like honestly, if I watch this movie nowadays, I'd probably give it a 4 or 5 because it's weird. It doesn't make any sense. But I've seen it so many times. I've got my own headcanon about it. It makes perfect sense to me. It's weird for the sake of being weird, and I love it for being weird for the sake of being weird. And that's kind of what Ice Pirates was, because Brian actually proposed doing Ice Pirates this week, and I'm like, no. No.
You've already been there, done that.
It's already been covered on the podcast. I don't want to revisit Ice Pirates. I did not care for it.
Well, so this good old movie here. Oh God, Kurt Russell
loves his truck, and he's got good reflexes.
Yes, he loves his truck. He's got good reflexes. But like, why is he doing what he's doing?
Why?
Yeah.
He was visiting his friend, and his friend was like, "Oh," and he
oh, how did this all? Like, he's just visiting his friend, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm shooting guns. I'm going in caves. I'm fighting monsters. I'm like, what is like? Oh my God, dude! Like, how'd this happen? There's a super old guy that shows up, and he's just like sitting in a chair. The chair fit. He like gets pushed back in a chair into like a pit. But like, I don't know. He's like making this like weird, he's like falling back into a pit in a chair, and why doesn't he just like stand up? He's like fighting to like put the chair back, but it's like I don't like. Oh my god, dude, so much doesn't make sense.
80s action schlock is why he does that.
But then as soon as so he's falling back in like this chair, and if he falls all the way, he's going into a pit.
Yeah.
But if he's like sitting there,
he catches himself, and then
he's like so he doesn't fall back. But like that's not like, why isn't he just like sitting up? Why is he just like sitting there like, I gotta go forward?
Well, I mean, he inches himself forward. It makes sense. He doesn't want to fall off. What doesn't make sense is that he inches up really far, and then he just throws it back. he just throws it back so it can fall in the hole like that. It's a little extra for sure. But so he's visiting his friend. His friend doesn't have the money to pay him for the gambling they're doing, and his friend's like, "Oh, I got to pick up my girlfriend at this airport," and he's like, "Fine, can we get the money?" He just wants his money. Like it's a guy who's in love with his truck who just wants his money from this bet, and he's following his Chinese best friend around until he can get the money that he's owed from this game. And so his friend just leads him on this crazy adventure because the bad guy David Lopan he's been cursed by some ancient Chinese god, and he is not mortal. He's sort of mortal. He's like that old guy in a chair that can't move, but then he's also like a ghost. And he's trying to like turn himself young again. And so he needs a woman with green eyes to sacrifice to this god so that he can become mortal again and be able to have fun and have the sex and stuff like that. He really, really wants a girl with green eyes when he's in bed in the sack. But also it just helps to sacrifice to the god. And then the reporter, the Gracie Law, she's the lawyer. She also has green eyes, so she gets kidnapped too. She gets all caught up in this mess, and it's like all these people know each other except for Jack Burton and his friend. Jack Burton and his friend know each other, but everyone else seems to know each other. Because I guess
David knows this movie way better than he should.
They're all from this like little place in Chinatown. It seems like, and it's great, like because you gotta. In a movie, you got a protagonist character. This movie has the quintessential protagonist character, Kurt Russell. You, the audience, you, Brian Bannister, you are in Kurt Russell's shoes. And
am I?
What? Yes, you are, because what is the most common phrase Jack Burton mentions in this movie? What is his most often line?
You're gonna have to tell me.
What the hell? What the hell was that? What the hell? It's literally all he says the entire movie.
Well, you said that's what you said last. You told me like you are the protagonist because I texted you. I was like, I don't know what's going on. You was like, that's right, you are the protagonist.
Well, yeah, Jack Burton. He's like, what the hell? Like that's all he says. He's like. It's like he is completely confused. He has no idea what's going on. He doesn't believe in magic. He doesn't believe all this is real. And he is stuck in this situation that's like out of a fantasy, like Dungeons and Dragons. That's why I compare it to, because there's magic and monsters and creatures. Little baby beholder.
There's a little baby beholder. That was my favorite character. Because why not?
There was a giant creature that just like has got crazy monster and claws and teeth and just pulls the guy into this hole.
There's like a werewolf thing. It was like a demon werewolf.
It's like a Chewbacca. It's like if Chewbacca was on crack.
It also shows up in the truck at the end. Yeah. I don't know what that was about.
I guess it's just he's just.
Is that ever explained? Do we know why?
I guess
that happened.
I guess he's just there to kill Jack Burton. Jack Burton doesn't actually.
Maybe that was supposed to be for the second movie.
I think it was supposed to be for the second movie, and there was talks for a while that they're going to make a second movie and or reboot. So, I don't know, but
and here we go back to the writer's strike. Yeah, let's make another one of Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, let's make another
reboot. Oh my god, don't make a reboot of this. There's no way it's good. No, god, no.
Well, I mean, they rebooted The Fog, and I'm like, man, how you can make a remake of one of the worst movies of all time? And they did.
I couldn't tell you.
So they remade The Thing. A lot of John Carpenter's movies have had remakes. So I mean, like The
Thing's
not
good. I liked The Thing.
The Thing. That's another Kurt Russell. Did you watch it when you were younger?
I mean, not when I was like 5. I didn't see it when I was like 5.
But
I saw it when I was like maybe 12 or 13.
That's still the right age for nostalgia to get you.
Yeah, but the Thing is a good movie.
Big Trouble in Little China is a good movie.
Is it?
I think so.
You and who else?
I'm pretty sure.
Besides, like, for some reason, if anybody goes and I don't recommend this movie straight up. Just like anybody who hasn't seen it before, I don't recommend it. I know David will disagree with me on that one, but if you go look this movie up, any reviews you see for this, they're like
This is a
above
well-reviewed movie.
average.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
It's not a trash movie by any stretch of the imagination. It is a
well, I
well-reviewed
mean,
movie. It's not.
I
It's not
might.
stellar. It's not a stellar reviewed movie. And it's also not reviewed trash because we
No,
almost.
it's like anywhere you look, it's like about a 7. It's about a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, and I gave like an 8
6,
because
7
I
out of
got
10.
rose tinted glasses. So we almost talked about Red Sonja today because I know they're making a new Red Sonja movie, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to compare the old Red Sonja with the new Red Sonja. But I looked up reviews for that, and they were like in the 20%, and I was like, oh man, I don't think I should do this. I like it when we disagree about a movie because it gives us different perspectives for potential listeners, and we're not just agreeing with each other the entire time. I think a conversation and a
I
discourse.
mean, I think it's cooler to talk about things we like, though. I
Well,
like talking
yeah,
about
but
stuff I
if we
like.
both hated Red Sonja, that wouldn't have been as interesting as a
Oh yeah,
back and
no.
forth conversation. If we both, oh, this is terrible, and we don't have anything to say about it, that's one thing. But when we have differing opinions, it opens up more of a conversation rather than this. Oh yeah, it was awesome. Oh yeah, it was awesome. It feels good when we both like something. But I mean, just talking about from a conversation standpoint, it's a little bit more dynamic when you're like, I don't like it. Oh, but I do, and I like it because of this reason. You don't because you. And in Red Sonja, we would have both been like, "This is a terrible
This was
movie."
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the guns and like, there's a lot of like action in this movie, like a lot of action. The whole movie's pretty much just action. It's almost John Wick level action with the amount of it that there is. But like the guns are just like awful. Like the sounds of the guns are just like don't make any like he's shooting like a like there was I don't maybe this is just like
It's,
because I'm like streaming it or something. But like Kurt Russell had like
it's like a little
like
submachine gun.
yeah, submachine gun, and he's like shooting it, and it should make like brrr, brrr, and it was shooting like boom,
Pow, pow, pow,
boom,
pow. Yeah, it made these.
boom, boom. It was like way. I don't know if that was the way it was streamed, but like that definitely isn't should be. So that felt a little weird.
Well, it's also 80. I feel like 80s movies, like their sound effects for guns, like are like hit and miss depending on the
Well, it
film.
was like you either shoot a real gun and get the sound from that, or like you have to. I
Foley
don't know
it,
what else you do.
like the sound,
Foley a gun. Yeah,
the sound
probably.
Foley music, yeah, or the music, but I mean the sound effects they would just make.
Yeah. Well, now you can just kind of probably make that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and there's also like high quality recordings of like actual
Every
gun
gun
shooting now.
known the
Yeah,
existence.
every single gun, every single caliber. Oh, especially with video games.
Well,
That's
there's that
also
too.
that's also a big thing where they've gotten like giant sound repositories for every single kind of gun imaginable. So yeah, like it was different back in the 80s, for sure.
Oh yeah, it was different. They don't make movies like this anymore.
They absolutely do not. And like the special effects weren't bad for the movie. Like the Beholder looks pretty cool, and that monster that came out of the side of the wall and pulls that guy in.
I like the practical effects,
Yeah,
and I guess you're right. The digital effects weren't like awful either. They were fine. I mean, they definitely don't hold up.
the
But like,
lightning effect was great at the beginning.
yeah,
It lit up his hands and his face, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, how did they do that back in the day? Like, I was like, I
with
that
lights.
that scene wasn't in the recording my dad did of the movie when I was a kid. So like I've only seen that scene like twice. So
Oh
rewatching it
wow,
this week,
lucky you.
yeah, I've only seen that scene twice out of the literal hundreds of times I've seen this movie.
You've seen it There's no way you've seen it
I, I
hundreds.
I'm almost 40, and I've seen this movie many times as a kid, many
I
times as
mean,
a young adult.
I think you've seen it maybe 50.
Okay, and the 50 times I've seen this movie, I've only seen that scene
That's still
twice.
a lot. Okay, twice. I mean, that what they had to do was just they had to shoot that color light at him.
Yeah, but
There's no other way to do
it
that.
was still a legit good looking effect
Yeah, no,
though.
it was a for the time. Let's not hype it up now and say like if that was in a movie nowadays it'd be good.
Yeah, I mean it's surprisingly good for the time.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Yes.
the effects like don't hold up to modern standards, but knowing this is an early 80s film, that's a good special effect.
Somebody knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it was
There
good.
was one guy on set.
Although I actually, what did you think of the music in this movie? Because John Carpenter also did a lot of the music. I like the music in the movie. It fits the movie very well,
I
I think.
I didn't really notice the music.
I guess it's only your first time watching it, so like I've seen it so many times. So like I
You're like,
can't.
what about when this one character said this one line? How did that make you feel? Like,
Yeah,
what are you talking
how did
about?
it make you feel when he said, "What the hell"? How,
Yeah, for the 8th time.
how did how did his friend know that the light coming out of Lopan's mouth would only give him temporary blindness?
Yeah, exactly. How'd that make me
He
feel?
just knows. He just knows it's temporary
I
blindness.
love the idea that this whole thing is just like this is just under like little Chinatown or whatever.
Yeah.
This is just there's just like this immense cave system with like these like
In
creatures.
San Francisco, like Dungeons and Dragons, like legit Dungeons and Dragons creature, including a beholder, down underneath San Francisco.
Yep, they're down there. It's a mini beholder though. Don't go like it's a small one that licks like at the end of the movie it like has like its tongue come out and it like licks its like whole face.
Oh yeah, he got shot in the head, so he was looking
Yeah,
at
he
his
was preparing
wounds.
himself.
Yeah, poor guy.
Oh god.
And then they had
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's what we should do is we should buy like where is that? Where do you think that prop is? We should buy it.
I don't know. I have no idea where that prop is. It's a cool prop though. I wouldn't mind having a little beholder guy. A
You
picture of a
wouldn't
little.
it's bigger than I think it's bigger than you think it is. I mean, it's
Yes, but
little,
like
but like it's not super
it's not
small.
the size of a Dungeon and Dragons beholder. Like
No, it is
beholders
not.
are decent sized creatures. This is a slightly bigger than a basketball sized creature.
Oh, I think it's a little bit bigger than a basketball.
Well, it was floating. It wasn't. It wasn't. It's not like as big as a cacodemon.
Yeah, but like it's not like golf ball.
No, I said basketball. It's like a little bit bigger than a basketball.
Okay. All right. Fine. I'll concede on that. It's a little bit bigger than a basketball.
Yeah.
A little bit bigger. They probably made it out of a basketball. The
Well,
inside of it's probably a
the
basketball.
prop itself, we don't know how big that is, but just the way it was displayed in the movie, it looked
Yeah.
about that size. Because the prop could be bigger or smaller. It was probably bigger for all those robotic eyes.
Probably.
It was probably
Probably.
the prop was probably bigger than it actually was.
Well, either way,
Because
man, good job on that.
I'm sure that was comped in. But yeah, it was cool. It was a cool prop for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the props. We talked about the props. We talked about the digital effects. We talked about
The
the
fight,
makeup's good
there's
too. The fighting it was
the
like
the
kind of
fight.
subpar.
Oh,
The story was by far the worst part of the movie. It's just this truck guy. Kurt Russell, man, I don't know. Maybe we should have stayed away from this one. I don't know. Do you think he's nostalgic for this? Do you think he looks back at this movie, Kurt Russell, and he's like, "Damn." He probably does because he was like jacked in this movie. He was kind of like he looked pretty strong.
oh, I'm sure he was. He was at least proud of his physical prowess because he looked good in this movie. I mean,
Yeah, he was
he's
definitely worked
jacked.
out.
He's strong. He's like the apex leading man. He's like, I'm not even gonna kiss the girl at the end because I love my truck more than her, and I know I'm gonna leave. I'm never gonna leave my truck for this lady.
That is pretty much what happens at the end of the movie. And then one of the Chinese guys says like some weird quote where he's just like, "Wow, what a guy," or
Yeah,
something
well,
like.
what a guy. Yeah. Not even gonna kiss the
You're not even
girl.
gonna kiss her? No.
No,
Okay.
absolutely
Wow,
not.
what a guy.
He's not even gonna try to lead her on.
No, not
He's a
even gonna lie.
stand up guy.
Yes. So
I don't know. Like
yeah.
I'm sorry you didn't like this movie, Brian. I was hoping you'd at least
Did
like
you
it.
really like? You told me you thought I was gonna. Did you really like? What was the thought? Like, obviously, you're gonna recommend the movie. I'm not gonna recommend the movie, but like, really, what's going on? You
I
thought it
was
was gonna be
hoping you'd
good.
at least appreciate it for the action. Like, it's like a decent.
The action was okay. It wasn't.
Oh, I mean, it's not going to be like Matrix level action. It's an early
Well, no.
80s. It's an early 80s action film. But I thought you'd at least appreciate it for the action and like some of the weird, fantastic elements on it. Like, I didn't think you'd love the story, but I thought you'd at least appreciate it on some
Oh
level.
no,
For
I
like
do. I definitely do
for the
appreciate it, but the
action.
story made me so confused that I like didn't know what was going on anymore.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on with this story. Like, if this story made sense to me and I didn't have to rewatch 60% of the movie, then
or have me explain it to you.
yeah, or having you explain it to me, I feel like it would have been okay. Because the rest of it, there is like cool, fantastical elements, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but also I've seen the movie so many times, so it just makes sense to me. Like Kurt Russell's the quintessential protagonist character. He's the character you're supposed to identify with because he's like, what the hell? What the hell was that? What is? Don't even tell me. I don't even want to know what that thing was. It's just like I don't know.
Oh boy.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just he's lost in a magical world. He thinks he's in the real world, and all this weird stuff's happening around him. It's great. I don't know. I think it's fun to be in that kind of character headspace.
I guess. I guess.
I don't know. I mean, to each their own. And I completely admit that if I saw this movie like today for the first time, I'd be like, "What the hell was this?" And I kind of knew that going into it with you, and I was hoping you'd like it, but I didn't really know. Kaylee hated it, so I kind of thought you might be on the hating it. But I thought because we talk about movies together a bunch that you might be slightly
I
less
might
hating
just
it.
like it.
No, I did not expect you to love the movie. I was expecting like a 5 to 6 from you. I was a little bit sad.
Okay.
I was a little bit sad about a 4.
How about I'll give it a 5, man. I could give it a 5. It's okay. I was debating whether or not between a 4 and a 5, so I will go with a 5. We'll take that. We'll rotate up.
Small wins. Yeah, and I completely agree. This movie is not for everybody, and framing this review around nostalgia made a lot of sense, especially after that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom being the best reviewed game of
Apparently, it's
all
only good.
time.
It's only getting good reviews because people are nostalgic for it.
Well, well, I think it's getting perfect reviews because people are nostalgic for it. I'm not disputing that it's not a good game. I'm just disputing
We haven't
whether
played it yet. We don't know if it's a good game or not.
whether it requires a 10. If the weapons break, it's still an 8 for me, and the weapons still break because I've seen video of the weapons breaking. So I don't care how good the rest of the game is. If I have to grab a new weapon every 2 seconds, like if weapons degraded and then I had to repair them, that's fine because I had to do that in The Witcher. But when they just snap in your hands and you no longer have that weapon anymore, that is frustrating. And is not a fun mechanic.
I do agree. I would like to know the like game design behind that. What is their reasoning? Because that's twice they doubled down on it.
I feel like the reasoning is that you can use a stick as a weapon, and yes, a stick will break and shatter in your hands, but not often do metal weapons just shatter in your hands. Like MythBusters,
You just have a giant battle axe.
it
It just
just
like shatters into a million pieces.
like MythBusters, like we're trying to do cutting a sword with a sword, and it was like near impossible. Even with like a robotic thing, it took so much force to cut a sword in half with another sword. Like it's just like knowing because the game is trying to do like realistic physics, like it's trying to do wind and fire and cold and hot,
Yeah.
it's trying to do realistic physics, and then like your like giant claymore that's like 30 pounds of steel just shatters, and it's just like, oh, that's not how that would work. Granted, yes, your tree branch you're hitting the bad guys with would shatter because I mean it's a piece of wood.
It's a stick.
It's a very small piece of wood too, which sure, a wooden sword that would shatter. But your metal weapons, you should just have to repair those.
Well, no.
No, yeah, it
How
just
it works.
it's just frustrating to me. Like that's that, especially like hunting Lionels, like their weapons broke so fast. I was like, ugh, these are the best weapons in the game, and
And
it's
they
just
break in a little bit.
yeah, it's just like, ugh, I've got to go kill another Lionel for another one of these weapons. It was just a slog. It was just this absolute slog. Just hunting guys for weapons because they broke so often.
Well, now you
So,
can make a weapon out of anything.
yay. And it breaks. Yay.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Thanks.
So yeah, do you have any other final thoughts there, Mr. Bucko?
Final
on,
thoughts. No,
Big Trouble in Little China?
no.
I do hope good one.
I mean, I recommend this film if you're open to old 80s classics. If you're a young person, Brian's age or my wife's age, like in your like mid-20s, you probably won't like this as much. This is probably an older person movie at this point, unfortunately. It's like I'm an old guy now.
I don't know if this is built for any age. I don't know what this is.
Well, I feel like it's just built for people who saw it when they were younger and liked it when they were younger.
That's probably.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
probably
It's like if you saw this between the ages of like 8 and like 14, and you liked it then, you'll probably still like it. I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's just like as an adult with an adult thinking brain, like I can understand people like not loving this movie.
it makes
I
sense.
completely understand. No hard feelings. I was just hoping for more
Hey, you got a
appreciate.
5. Don't push it.
Yeah. I was really hoping you'd give it a 7 though.
That's not happening. Nope, not happening. Really hoping you give it like a 9.
9.5.
Yeah, 9.5. Give it like Avatar numbers.
Avatar numbers. So speaking of Avatar, how's your Jake Sully doing?
I haven't got to it yet, but you know it's definitely I will show it off on the podcast when I have it completed. I think it should be a surprise for that day.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, guys.
Uh,
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you like this nostalgic view back to the 80s.
Email
This
us at
is
synthaholics@yahoo.com as I interrupt David's important speech.
breathe in and through your nose.
Yes, exactly.
as you
Meditation,
as
yoga.
you as you subscribe to Synthaholics. We will be in your ears and in your brain, telling you opposite
Oh,
things.
telling you, kid, trying
because
to confuse you.
because Brian's views are not the same as David's views necessarily. Sometimes they are, but not always.
I think Rings of Power is a 10 out of 10.
Rings of Power is nothing out of 10.
Exactly. Different opposing views.
Different opposing views coming to
Okay.
your ear brains. All right. Until next time, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. What the hell out?
Bye bye. What the hell out?
As Jack Burton would say, what the hell?
What the hell?